and welcome to the Petey Performance Podcast, a solo episode for you guys today. I am jumping straight on. I have done very little prep, but I am going to be talking about online coaching and in-person coaching, the benefits of both, the differences between them, and what instances it may be suitable to be an in-person coach and what instances it might be more suitable to be an online coach. As you will all know that are listening to this, I do elements of both. I work both with clients online and I work in person with multiple teams and athletes as well. And I have to say, I enjoy doing both realistically. I think that the in-person coaching really keeps me fresh, challenges me, allows me to develop my coaching eye further because we're never finished as coaches. And until I can see things in the same way that Dan Pfaff and Stu McMillan and all of these fantastic sprint coaches and movement coaches can see things, I'm not going to be satisfied. And that's part of the passion of it, I guess, and part of the reason that you do it. You're looking for technical mastery, the same as you do with every sport that you play, with everything that you play. You're looking to master it. You're looking to do the best that you can possibly do. You're looking to be the best that you can possibly be. And I think the benefit of coaching and something that draws people to it is you're not only trying to be the best that you can be, but you're also trying to help people to be the best that they can be as well. So I do elements of both. Part of that is a business decision because you'll want to have multiple revenue streams as a strength and conditioning coach. In most endeavors, really, I think if COVID taught us anything, it's that a lot of jobs there are very and inherently unstable. And if something like that happens again, you better have multiple ways of creating revenue and paying yourself a wage, essentially. As well as that, like, it's obviously a passion of mine. It's something that I went into quite young. It's something that I see myself doing for the rest of my life, really. And it's interesting to talk about this because although this is a coaching-focused podcast and a coaching-focused chat, there are business decisions that need to be made, and it's something that we're not taught about in university or when we're coming up. We kind of have to figure it out for ourselves. And there's definitely loads of resources out there at the moment for young coaches that are struggling to make it in the industry and really want to find their feet in the online space. And it's becoming very attractive for people and very lucrative that a lot of people just want to coach online. I think you can do well doing that, but it's a small percentage of people that do very well doing that. As well as that, I do believe that if you're going to be an extremely effective online coach, it would be beneficial to have some level of experience coaching in person. That's not to say you can't coach online effectively if you haven't coached people in person, but it's to say that coaching people in person is definitely a step up and will give you the tools that are necessary to be an effective online coach. Some of them, at least. Some of them you've got to work on while you are doing it, I suppose, like anything. But yeah, I think a lot of people are moving into the online space because they're probably burnt out with the amount of hours you have to work in the in-person space. And a lot of people move on to the online space because they don't even enjoy coaching people in person. I think that's madness, really, because like the reason you get into the coaching game and get into coaching in the first place is you enjoy helping people towards their goals and working with people and meeting people. So if it's a case that you don't like working with people and you don't like communication, you don't like relationships and you don't like conversing with people and teasing things out with them, then sorry, maybe you probably shouldn't be a coach at all, because that is what coaching is. It's a people-focused industry. You've got to deal with people. You've got to be effective in how you communicate and how you do deal with the people. And how effectively you can communicate is going to dictate how many clients you're going to have, how effective you're going to be in those roles, and how quickly you're going to be able to guide them to their peak or guide them towards their goal or guide them towards their peak performance, their best performance, or achieving their goal that they've set out with you. Because that's what we're doing. We're guiding them. And you're guiding them in the in-person as well as in the online. But I believe the in-person is definitely more beneficial in the here and now, in that present moment of the session. You will be able to deliver more value to the client in terms of cueing them on their quality of exercise execution. You will be able to identify issues and solve them earlier in the in-person, but it requires the most amount of time investment from both yourself and from the client themselves. As well as that, it's going to be a high value service, as I've just alluded to. So it's going to be a significant financial requirement as well. And they're going to have to commit to that. And you're going to have to be consistent, and you're going to have to be flexible with when you're scheduling in these sessions. So I think a lot of the stuff that I do in person is, obviously I work with the teams in the gym and work with athletes in the gym occasionally, but a lot of the time it's the game speed stuff. It's the speed coaching, it's the change of direction coaching. And that's not to say that you can't do that online. It's just that I think the athletes that come to me don't have the most experience in terms of their speed training and their change of direction training, or their agility training, game speed. So it's more effective to go through that with them in person, because there are more problems to solve in person. They benefit from cueing and constraints a little bit more. And typically with the change of direction coaching, agility coaching, because there's so many variables, if I don't have an extremely effective video and I don't describe in direct detail and intense detail how they're going to execute the drill that I'm giving them, or the skill or the game that I'm giving them, a lot of it can fall between the cracks, and they can execute the drill to a different level or with a different goal in mind than what I've tried to communicate. Part of that is down to my communication and my communication getting better. But at least when you're in person, you can figure out whether your communication has been effective immediately, rather than if you're in the online space, you'll have to jump on a call with them and go through their technique then and there, but they're not going to execute a movement thereafter immediately. So you'll have to wait till the next call to go through it again. It can be done. And if they have a great deal of experience in that style of training, then they can benefit from it, and they can benefit from the high value for maybe less financial cost to them. But I think what the online space has over the in-person is the online space allows for more autonomy for the individual. They can decide when and where they do their session. They can self-select in terms of how many sets, reps, etc. they're going to do, what exercise they're going to do, because I prescribe that for them, their choices that they can choose. They are also going to get more time to talk about the things outside of training that impact on their performance, which have a huge impact on their performance. Like if we think about how much training we do on a weekly basis, we're talking 6 to 10 hours probably. The rest of the week, we're outside the gym. So it's your habits and behaviors outside the gym that are going to dictate your recovery from what you're doing in the gym. So there's no point in doing these super well designed and well executed, intense, high volume training sessions when we're not recovering from them. So the habits and behaviors might be in relation to our habits with our nutritional habits, our sleep habits, might be in relation to additional conditioning that we're doing away from the gym, conditional rehab protocols, additional planning around our mornings, planning around our evenings, performance psychology, how we're treating each and every endeavor and opportunity to train and to play. Are we seeing the opportunity and relishing the challenge, or are we fearful and worried that we're going to screw up? So like you can set very reasonable, actionable and specific goals with the client around their weekly schedule and what they're going to do that week in the online space, which I feel you can do in person. But as a coach that coaches in person, often the conversations that you have around that in person don't get to the same level of depth as they do in the online space, because in the in-person, you are focused on the immediate session, the immediate drill, the immediate rep, the immediate set, and the execution of it. So the benefit is seen in relation to that, but the drawback to that is you don't get to have the same level of benefit and input onto the person's habits, onto the client's habits. You can do, if you set aside time pre and post session to talk about that kind of stuff. And with my in-person clients, I also offer them the check-in calls that we do weekly with our online premium clients, and they benefit from that as well. But oftentimes, if they've seen me that week and we've already conversed, they will choose to forego that consultation call and they might just drop me a voice note. And that's the benefit to online coaching as well. It can be catered to the athlete, but driven by the athlete. So if they don't want to converse, they just want to fill in what they've done, and then I program based off of how they're responding to the program. We can do that. I've had athletes in online coaching that I haven't spoken to for 2 months, and then I've chatted to them. I've been like, look, we need to do a check-in. I need to see where you are and how you're at. And they'll text me back. They're like, yeah, 100% feeling fantastic. Did all of the sessions over the last 2 months, and they've reaped the rewards, or more rewards, than some people that are more frequent in their levels of communication. But that's just different personalities. Some people are more driven in their pursuit of their goal. They don't require the same amounts of deliberation and motivation from the coach. They don't have the same amount of questions around why we're doing things. They don't have the interest. They just want the program there. They want to cater to their needs and they want to go and do it, and they trust you. And that's a big part of the in-person and online space. And the difference is, I think, as a coach, you're always seeking to get your athletes to trust you. And you're always seeking to trust them as well, and develop that relationship. But the in-person connection and what occurs thereafter, it leads to a lot more trust between, typically it is easier to develop that bond and develop that trust with the in-person meeting. And that's probably one of the reasons as well that I've gone for more in-person podcast recordings this year, is I think that it leads to better conversations because you're seeing somebody on a level. It's not through a screen. You can pick up more cues from them. You can listen to them. And that goes for coaching and the conversations around it as well. You can hear and see in their body language, or you can hear in their voice better in person as to how they're getting on with their programming, their training, how they're feeling about what they're doing. And you can probably pick up problems earlier. And that's why in person is typically good for those type of clients. But then again, not every client is going to need an in-person care or an in-person program or in-person delivery. So it's really just about asking yourself when you're going for an online or an in-person coach is, what do I need from this coach? How is it going to be delivered? How am I going to achieve it? What are the limiting factors that are currently playing into me not achieving my goal? And how is this person best suited to helping me towards that goal? So if it is in the case that you're looking to work with me and you want to work on a physique goal, I would probably say you don't need to work with me in person. I'd probably pass you on typically to somebody that is better suited to a body transformation if that's what you're after. As I've gone through before, like I coach athletes, I'm a performance coach. Physical performance is what I'm passionate about. I can help people with a body transformation, but I think there's other coaches that are better at that than me, and I don't get the same satisfaction or level of well-being from doing that. It doesn't stimulate me. I really get excited about seeing athletes push the boundaries of what they're capable of, that maybe in terms of speed, in terms of their ability to change direction, their on-field performance, their strength, their power, etc. But that's what gets me going. That's what I enjoy. And that's why I'm best suited to working with team sport athletes that are focused on doing those things. And that's why people may refer athletes to me. And that's why I may refer general population clients to others. And that's not to say I wouldn't work with general population clients. They just have to be wholly committed and really, really invested in wanting to work with me, I guess. And it has to be the right fit. And that's a big part of coaching, is finding the right fit for you. And sometimes you'll try a coach and it won't work, so you'll move on to another coach, and that's perfectly fine. What is important is that as a coach, you don't take that personally, and you try to make the experience as good and as healthy and as enjoyable as possible, and you don't get personally hurt if that person decides that they're going to move on and try somebody else. And that can be hard to do, because a lot of the time as coaches, we tie up a lot of our self-worth in how effectively we can do our job. So it takes a lot of self-awareness to do that, and it takes experience, and it takes time, and you get better at it as you go. But I think if you identify who your target market is, who you see the best results with, and who enjoys working with you the best, you will soon start to figure out who are the best people to work with you. And as a result, your client retention will likely be better, your business will likely be better, and your results will be better for those that do work with you. So as a coach, you have to figure out that you can't say yes to everything and everyone, and you can't cater for everybody's needs. Now, that's not to say that initially you're not going to work with a wide range of people, and that's part of the benefit of in-person coaching, is you will work with a wide range of people with different motivations, different needs, and different goals. And in different sports, very important as well. It's important not to niche down too early, I think, in that the most effective coaches are really good generalists, but typically really good generalists who specialize in an area or in a couple of areas. So you're not going to be a very good generalist if you niche down really early in your career. And I see a lot of people coming out of college now and just deciding immediately, I'm going to be an online coach. Whereas realistically, I think, not to say that my path was any better than anybody else's, but I had experience in strength and conditioning with elite level teams, as well as working with individuals in personal training, general population clients, and working with athletes one-on-one as well. So I got exposure to lots of different things. I worked in rugby. I work now in Gaelic games. I've worked with soccer players. I've worked with sailors. I've worked with golf athletes. I've worked with multiple different sports, tennis athletes, volleyball players, swimmers, heaps. And I enjoy doing all that. And I enjoy working with different athletes for the different challenge. But I wouldn't be a great generalist, and I wouldn't get all of these different perspectives if I just niched down and went into the one area. I think that is an important part of coaching that is often missed, and your coaching might become a bit of a vacuum if you're not exposed to that semi-regularly. So still, I will have conversations with coaches in other sports and try to pick their brains as to what they're doing and what the differences are and what benefits or different solutions they've come up to with problems. And I think implementing them and coming in with a fresh perspective has great benefit. And I've seen it from coming across from, look, a lot of my work was in rugby and with rugby players and rugby teams. And then I came across the Gaelic games, and some of the stuff that I was talking about seemed very basic to me, but it had just been missed by the GAA coaches and the Gaelic games athletes because they hadn't been exposed to it, because they'd been conversing and dealing with other GAA coaches and other GAA athletes. And then you're limiting the amount of information that you're getting, and you're limiting the benefits that can be seen, because if you are to be better than anybody has ever been, or better than every other team in the competition, you're not likely going to get there by doing the exact same things that they've done. You probably need to try to do some things slightly differently. And that's because you have a different team or you are a different athlete, and what works for one person will not work for another person. And that's what we've spoken about before, about having different programs within the same group and different solutions to different problems within the group. It's not a one size fits all model that works for everyone. And again, I think in an in-person environment with the teams, I get to see that every day. Like you'll see that one athlete will have a different movement solution for a certain movement or a certain variation. So somebody might move or have a different movement strategy for a back squat to another person. Somebody might really focus in on bending their knees and going really through that quad. And they might find it pretty easy to stay stacked and stay upright as they come up. And then others might hip hinge over and try to use their posterior chain to get themselves up, which might not be the best movement strategy, but it's the best one for them at that point, given their strengths and their weaknesses. And then you're going to figure out pretty quickly, okay, maybe both of these athletes don't need a back squat. Maybe one of them is getting the benefits of a back squat. Maybe I'll try a different variation for the other person. And that's what you get to see in person. Whereas in the online, it's often maybe a little bit slower that you identify those issues, because they'll come back to you for a couple of weeks maybe, and they'll be like, look, my back is really sore. And then you'll say, okay, can you send me a video? And then they'll send you a video, and then you'll see what the issue is, rather than being there for every rep and every set, which you don't have to be there for every rep and every set, but being there for that immediate one, you get to see more and identify the problems earlier. So I think you can accelerate their development a little bit quicker, for sure. But that's not to say that you can't do that from an online space. And I think like what we've been doing with Ballintubber is really, there's a lot of ingenuity there, and I think it's interesting to see what the outcome is going to be, because I have a great strength and conditioning coach down there, Connor Finnerty, shout out to Connor, and he's implementing my programming and coming to me with the issues, and then I'm helping him to solve the problems that he's running into, because they're typically things that I've run into in the past, and we're talking that out and we're seeing what is going to be the solution. And then I'm working with the team sport coaches around structuring training and how we're going to run things. And I think that is the benefit of it, is I get to be both internal to the group and really driving what's happening, but also come in with an external perspective and seeing things and offering solutions that maybe they haven't thought about, because they're so focused in the here and now. And I see that myself, I suppose, with what the work I'm doing here in Dublin, like with the teams. Sometimes I'm so focused on session delivery and focused on, okay, we're going to do this here, and this is where this is going to line up, and this is how we're going to use this space, that maybe I miss some of the things that we should be picking up a little bit earlier in terms of what athletes are going to be capable of doing, when I need to tell them to pull back a little bit, when I need to be on the case of maybe the head coaches and the team of coaches in relation to what our goals are for the session, planning the sessions out, our goals for maybe the monthly block on the pitch, etc., guiding them and educating them consistently, because the benefit of working with a team away from me is that I'm dealing primarily with the coaches rather than the individual players' problems. Whereas with my work up here, I'm dealing with all of the players' problems directly. So there's quite a difference between dealing with maybe 5 coaches than there is in dealing with 100 players who you do have to have that individual relationship with, and are looking to get help from you as well. Like they want to get your perspective because they trust you, and it's very important for the whole process that they do trust you and that you do endeavor to do your best and help to guide them. And I think both works well for sure, and I enjoy doing both, and I can see that I benefit from doing both. I think my online coaching benefits from my in-person coaching, and my in-person coaching similarly benefits from my online coaching around habits, behaviors, creating content for athletes that they can work on, that they can consume in their own time, that they can, like, for instance, over the last 2 weeks, I've created an extras sheet based off all the videos that I've done for online coaching for all of my in-person clients. So if my in-person athletes want to improve or need to address some discrepancies or deficiencies in their, I think we broke it down into knee focused, calf focused, or calf and Achilles focused, and what was the other one? I think it was groin, maybe hips. It was hips, actually. In fact, common injury sites for GAA players for sure. And then most of the hamstring stuff I will give to them if they need it, and there will be a few that need it, obviously, in Gaelic games, which we all know of. But I developed a breakdown of all of the different things that they can work on, and then they have a self-selected kind of protocol that they can go through in order to improve in those areas if they feel that they need some extras, we call them, or add-ons in terms of their accessory movements in those areas. And then similarly, I did a similar thing for athletes that wanted to work on their acceleration or their max speed, and then finally on their technique or their speed in relation to their high speed running, etc. And I did a breakdown in terms of drills for each, and in terms of skills for each that they should work on, and then in terms of exposures, what their main exposure should be, whether if it's acceleration they're doing some sled pulls or some half kneel and starts, or for max speed it might be some wickets, some flying sprints, some frontside bleeds, primetime bleeds, etc. And then a lot of technical drills for those that are trying to master or improve their technique. And the buy-in has been good. I've seen athletes going out early and doing a few extras, which is admirable and means we're going in the right direction in terms of building culture. And it's great when that happens. It's great when you build something for the athletes and then they start to see the benefit. And if they're seeing the benefit, or you can tell if they're seeing the benefit early on by if they're buying into it, if it's been easy to consume and easy to implement. And then down the line, in terms of if it makes any tangible change to their performance or to their psychology or how they're feeling down the line, and that's effective change, and then it's worked, I suppose. So, but then again, as I just touched on, that and those videos can be then used, and that process can be then used with my online clients or my private clients, and it can likely be used with the club down in Mayo as well, with all of those athletes if they feel they need to do extras. So you're constantly building something and building a product and service that is hopefully constantly growing and improving and is going to solve more problems for more people. And that's got to be the goal, I suppose. That's what you're always focused on as a coach, is trying to affect the most change with the most amount of people, but the most meaningful change as well. And I wouldn't like to go down the route where I'm a fully online, don't deal with any people, don't hear any of the stories, don't get that one-on-one level of connection. I don't think I want to go down that route, because I really do enjoy those conversations. I really do enjoy all the people that I work with, and I really am invested in their development. And that's not to say that you wouldn't be, but it probably gets watered down the further removed you get from the client. So if you're just selling stock programs to people, you're not going to know very much about that person's story or about that person or about how they get on. So I would imagine that the well-being that comes from that, or seeing that person reach their goals, it's obviously satisfying, but not as satisfying as seeing some of the athletes reach their goals that I have had a few pints with, or I've gone for coffee with, or I know really well because I've sat in and took them through their rehab protocol for months on end, multiple times a week. And I feel like I really know those athletes, so I'm fully invested in their development. And that's one part of the say online or semi in-person S&C work that I do with teams, that I kind of said, look, I think this is really important, is that I do come down semi-regularly or regularly and meet people and have conversations, and they do see my face and we do build that connection. And I do see occasionally what needs to be improved, and I do quiz them on and get their feedback on what's been working, what's not been working, what are they struggling with, because then I take that information and I go away and I use it for the next block of programming. And I also become invested, or more invested, not to say I wasn't initially, or not to say that I wouldn't be, but in helping them to achieve their goals and helping them and guiding them towards peak performance. So that's kind of what I'm running with, I suppose. And that's why I see the benefit in doing both. And that's why I believe it is important that we do a little bit of in-person coaching. That's not to say that it has to be fully in person as well, in that I do a little bit of virtual coaching as well, where you're on a Zoom call with the person and they're going through a session with them. And that can be pretty effective, really, really effective for sure. And I know that a lot of practitioners work that way and see great benefits doing it that way. And in a way, it is in the now and it's still focused on the present moment and it's getting the best of both. So you could definitely do that as well as the online coaching. But I think if it was just online, you're probably not going to remain as fresh and in tune with how people are moving and different movement solutions. And you're not going to get to try as many things, because we know the industry is constantly evolving. There's constantly new things coming in. There's constantly new strategies for improving different problems or finding solutions to different problems. So you're going to get to trial them. As I've said, you're going to get to try new things and put in practices that aren't being trialed in other places, maybe in that sport, and you're going to see if they work. And that is it. You're going to try things and sometimes they won't work and then you'll throw them out, but some of them will work and you'll be like, that is class. We're going to keep that in and we're going to keep doing that. So yeah, I think you do lose a little bit by going the route of a little bit more impersonal, fully online. But if those are the athletes and the clients that you are certain you want to work with, and you're certain you want to work with them and them only, and that's what works and fits your schedule, then maybe you're really, really good at that. But I don't think that's for me. Definitely not at this point anyway. I think I do enjoy the bits and pieces that I'm doing all over the place. And as a business and from a business perspective, maybe I should be more streamlined in my approach and sell, as Hormozy says it, one product, one avatar, one channel. But I think my ADHD is just too bad for that, unfortunately. No, I've always been one of those that had multiple different projects and working on different things. And it's not that I get bored of anything easily. It's just like I like to be challenged and stimulated in very different environments. And it's probably the reason that I continued playing multiple different sports until a late age in comparison to other people. And that's something I'll probably be getting back to very, very soon, I think. And it's something that I've always had multiple different interests in really different areas. I've never kind of prescribed to one stereotype, I guess. And nor am I going to, I guess, in the near future in terms of what I'm doing professionally. And yeah, I do enjoy working and niching down and working with GAA athletes, and I'm getting a great deal of benefit. But just because I'm working primarily with GAA athletes doesn't mean I can't work with the odd rugby player. I can't work with the odd soccer player, athletics athlete, and doesn't mean they can't benefit from me. And I think those new challenges and those different challenges benefits me in terms of my development, as well as the athlete getting a fresh perspective and not closing themselves off to a coach that's only in their niche area. Sometimes a fresh perspective can be just what you need. So that's enough rambling for today. I currently have 3 spaces available for online coaching, and I have 2 spaces available for in-person coaching for March. So if you listen to this podcast and it resonated with you and it sounded exciting and it sounded like we would be a good fit for each other, don't hesitate to get in touch. Get in touch with me, please, before March. Drop me a DM if you can, and you can just caption it interested, and we can have a conversation and we can jump on a free coach consultation call and we can chat through what your goals are and what your issues are, and I can give you some help in regards to what would suit you best, if we potentially would be able to work together and I'd be well suited to helping you along in terms of achieving your goals, or I can point you in the right direction anyway in terms of somebody that might be better suited than myself to doing so. As well as that, we still have spaces available for March in the GAA Elite Athlete Blueprint, which is €99 per month. Myself and the guys at NutriKate, including Kate McDade, are running that program. It's been really exciting. It has been new. It has been different. And it has been great to cater to so many different club level athletes in the GAA that aren't in the position that they would benefit from or could commit to the elite level premium coaching service. So we're still helping people. We're still guiding people towards improved performance. We're still giving and delivering inter-county standard level S&C and nutritional information, as well as guidance to multiple athletes at club level, and hopefully guiding those athletes towards performing at the best for their clubs, the best they ever have, being the athlete that they've always dreamed of becoming. And then after they perform at their best for their clubs, who knows what might happen down the line. We might have athletes transitioning up and playing at a county level, and that's got to be the goal, I guess. But not solely that. It's not a failure if they do that, but guiding each and every athlete to the highest level that they're possibly capable of becoming. So being the best that they can be. And I suppose I've been trying to be the best that I can be throughout this podcast, despite the fact that I've jumped on at short notice and just rambled a little bit. I hope you've seen some value in this podcast and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, please remember to like it, share it, and send it.